What's up, dudes? Welcome back to Duty's Daggers. We're doing a knife review today of the infamous Microtech MSI, or Microtech Standard Issue. This is a very hard to get knife right now, very recently released. Hard to get, so I'm very, very grateful to Florida Boy EDC for lending this to me and letting me have it for a couple weeks. So big thank you, big shout out to him. He has a channel as well. He's doing great stuff over there. So make sure you go subscribe to Florida Boy EDC. So please subscribe to me also, if you're not already. You probably are, but subscribe to me and follow me on Instagram, duties_daggers. That way you're all kind of up to date on channel news. We do a lot of fun events. We do live torture tests. We do all kinds of stuff. Had to let the dog out of the room there as always. So, let's talk about this thing. This was a recent release by Microtech, along with another knife using this locking system, the Stitch. Came up with a manual Stitch as well. They call this the Ram lock. And it is similar to an axis lock or any bar lock. In its function, in the way that it's used, you have two tabs on either side that you grab with your thumb and pointer finger, pull back, and that disengages the blade. But mechanically, what's going on inside here is a little bit different than your traditional axis lock. There's not an omega spring in here, which is basically just a wire spring. It's actually a coil spring in there. You can see it right there. And at least I haven't taken this apart. But it's almost like who's calling me? It's almost like a shark lock in the way that this piece right in here, you can see it moves with the axis lock, with the these tabs, I mean, and it kind of pops up. The spring pops it up and forces it into this little crevice, not really crevice, but little surface on the tang. Locking the knife out, and you have the constant pressure of the spring pushing up, so it can't slide back out of its locked position until you actually pull it down and let the blade down. So pretty cool. Not like super duper groundbreaking, but it is a new locking mechanism. It seems to be a very strong locking mechanism. I haven't seen any major torture tests or any kind of real testing videos on the locking mechanism yet. I know Jared Neves has one coming. I'm excited to see that. But this is their new Ram lock, and this was their first release using it, along with the Stitch. So let's measure this knife. It's big. It's really big. Way bigger than I was expecting it to be. We got a blade length of almost 4 inches, like 3 7/8. Our handle is about 5 inches, and overall it's bigger than my ruler, so it's probably like 8 3/4 almost. It's long. It's big. Size comparisons. This will help you really get an idea. Let's put it up against the Shaman. Definitely a big knife. Now look how big it looks next to the Shaman. So there you go. How about a PM2? How about a Native 5? Big. Big. Pogue Deca? Kaiser Drop Bear? It's quite big. Quite big. Let's do one more. Kaiser T1, baby. There you go. Big knife. If I choked all the way back, look how much knife there is. If I choke all the way up in the choked up position, look how much handle there is. So quite a large knife. I want to see what the cutting edge is though. It was 3 3/4 total, but let's see what we got for the actual cutting edge. It's about 3 3/8 of an inch. So you get a lot of cutting. A lot of edge to cut with here. Now, I did a full cut test video with this knife. Florida Boy EDC said that it was okay if I did my cut test with this knife. So I'll put a link to it up in the corner there. I will remember. I'm going to write myself a note. So if you want to see this in action, you can go click that. Or if for some reason I forgot, just type in Duties Daggers MSI cut test. It'll come up. In the rare circumstance that I have gotten a loaner that I can also cut test with, I can do a full comprehensive review of this knife because I was able to do the cut test. So that's really cool. A lot of times when I get loaners in a pass around or whatever it is, I can't do the cut tests with them because I need to keep it nice and nice and pretty. So very cool. Now, I will just reference the cut test video in saying that it cut pretty well. We'll take the measurement behind the edge here in a second. It's thin behind the edge. It didn't slice quite as well as I would have hoped. It's thick blade stock, and we have this flat area here and this large hole. The grind only comes up to about right there. There's some friction up here, even though we do have this nice fat swedge, which does help for sure. So it didn't slice amazingly, but definitely did fine. Overall, I think it did pretty good. I think a hollow grind would have been really nice on this, but no major complaints at all for sure. But go watch the cut test video for more details on that. So let's get the calipers out. Let's see what we got here. Back here, we're looking at 18 thousandths, 19 thousandths, and at the tip, I think it's a little thicker at 21 thousandths. So that's fine. That's fine for an EDC knife. That's perfectly fine. I think 20 thousandths is kind of on the thicker side of acceptable for an EDC knife. And then super thin would be like, 8 to 12 thousandths. So not bad at all. Not bad at all. So let's talk about the construction of the knife. We have G10, both sides. I like how it looks. It looks almost a little more fibrous than some G10 that I've seen. I think it looks great. Almost looks like my Micarta in a way. But it is G10, both sides. I like the finish on all the hardware. First of all, I like this big, beefy hardware. It looks badass, dude. Really looks badass. These are all T8s, even the pocket clip screws. We have this cover plate for the lefty pocket clips area. I just love this hardware. It's beefy. You are absolutely not worried about stripping them. It looks great. It just has a really kind of tough, badass look to it. So, love the hardware. They all have the same kind of almost bead blast finish on them. The clip works definitely very well. I think it looks awesome. You see we have our branding on the clip, the MSI, serial number, and date of birth right in there. That's cool. The pivot is a big old, geez, that's a huge torch. What size is that? Let's see. That looks like that's a T20. That's cool, man. A T20. Isn't that awesome? I mean, T8 works fine, but T20, that's badass, dude. That's super badass. Cool. I didn't even realize that until right now. Let me double check that these are T8s. That's a T9. Yeah, it's T8 for the body screws. Now, the clip is a bit of a hot spot, and I noticed that in the cut testing that you can see it ramps up into a bit of a point right here. And this was a pretty significant hot spot as you're gripping the knife, pushing through materials. Definitely noticeable. Another hot spot was actually this corner right here, weirdly enough. I don't know what it was about it, but it was right here in my pinky as I was, well, maybe, hang on, was it right there? No, it's right here. It's actually right back here. This right here. I think it's this jimping right here that's causing it, because it was when I was choked back. Well, hang on. Yeah, I guess it's choked back. So choked up, my pinky just hitting on the corner of this jimping right here. Choked back, it's still on the jimping. It's just kind of sharp. I think if that wasn't there, it would be better. But for some reason, that's just a hot spot right in there. It gets me right here, and kind of hurts my. It hurts me a bit. So there are some definite hot spots on the knife. The tabs are actual tabs here. I love the milling on them. This is the same kind of, it's almost like an X shape, but kind of getting larger and larger and larger as it goes down. Same milling pattern that's on the switches for their OTFs. I think it looks good. Provides good traction too on the tabs. Bunch of jipping back here on the liners. We have jipping on that actual tab in there. We have a bunch of jipping back here on the backspacer and the G10. And then this stuff right here that was causing the hot spot. And then up on the spine here. So a lot of jipping everywhere. Still not as much as the Manix 2 though. Manix 2 has more. Got a lanyard slat back there if you want one of those. What else? Let's talk about the blade. The blade still here is M390MK, which is a new variety of M390 that Microtech came up with. And apparently it's, from what I can tell, it's basically just M390, but they added a little bit of something to give you a better polish on your edge bevel. A little bit more chromium or something like that, I think. From the testing that I've seen, it performs very similarly to just regular M390, so not a huge big deal there. I love the lack of branding on the blade. Microtech likes to blast their branding all over the blades. But here we just have the little talon and the blade steel and nothing on the other side. So I think that's great. That's really, really great. I think this is a good looking blade. We have a stone wash on the bevel, the swedge, and then a satin flat right here. The stone washing looks nice. It's almost like a cloudy reflectivity kind of thing going on here. I think it's a really good looking blade. I really do like it. Sheep's foot, very utilitarian, just slight belly. Great utility cutter. This is in my opinion one of the best EDC blade shapes ever. Probably my favorite blade shape too. So really, really like that they chose a sheep's foot for this guy. So that's the construction of the knife. How it's made. One more thing to note: there is no milling on the inside of the G10 there, and there are no liners either. There's kind of a half of a liner. Let me see if I can get my light in there. It's almost kind of like how the bug out is. I think it's called a cartridge liner maybe. But you can see it right there, see it reflecting. It kind of angles down and then ends about right there. I don't know how easy it is for you to see. It does not encompass the whole area. If we were to draw a line on the outside, kind of tracing it, it kind of goes like this. It kind of comes down here and then ends about right there. So kind of from here up, we have liners, and then the rest of it is just the G10. This is thick G10 though. I can't even flex it at all. So I don't think it's a real issue. Having those partial liners, this seems to be, completely robust enough to not really need them. So that's fine in my book. All right, let's talk about the action. This is something that I think most people want to know about this knife. Something I was very curious to know about the knife. How's the action? Well, it's okay. I had a really hard time reverse flicking this knife, and still do. I kind of learned a little bit of a technique that makes it a little better. But if you just pick up this knife and you go to reverse flick it like you would a Spyderco, this is what happens. You know, you pick up a Spyderco, it pops out. You pick this up, it doesn't pop out. Thumb flicking it is a little bit better. But you can see it does not fly out with any kind of authority or force at all. Now, you can get a little bit of wrist action in there and kind of help it along. That makes it better. You can do that. Now, I learned if you put your finger kind of down here and you really push in towards the blade, I don't know, I kind of hurt my finger today. I think something like got under my fingernail. It kind of hurts right now. Let me see if I can do it with my index finger. Yeah, kind of. I mean, you guys might be able to do it. I do have pretty strong hands, and it's not easy for me to reverse flick. So that was disappointing. I wanted this to be nice and snappy, you know? And, you know, crossbar locks are notoriously not that snappy. You know, it's kind of a rarity to get something like the drop bear here that actually feels like it's got a good kind of detent feel. You know, even this is a different locking mechanism, but still, you know, it's got a little bit of a detent feel. This really doesn't. There's no real, you know, click. There's no like popping out of a detent hole kind of feel. It's just there's a little bit more resistance until you get to here. Honestly, not even really much at all. There's like slightly more resistance, and then you get to here, and it kind of loosens up a little bit. But this is just not. It's not a snappy flicker. It's just not. Anyone will tell you that about the knife. So that was a little disappointing to me. You know, it's always nice to have a nice, you know, snappy flicker. But, you know, if this was my knife, I would just open it like that. It would be a slow roller. And it does feel pretty good to slow roll. It's got a pretty nice little click right there. I like that. Now the closing action, it's pretty smooth. You kind of got to give it a little bit of an encouragement so that it closes all the way. But it feels nice and smooth. It feels smooth pulling back the ram lock here. Doesn't feel too stiff or anything like that. You know, and this might break in over time. It might. I don't know. This is a pretty new knife. There's kind of a 2-click kind of deal. You get this first click, and then the second click locking out. That sounds kind of cool, you know. You know, it is a pretty big, heavy blade too, so that has something to do with it as well. You know, not being able to reverse flick it super well. You know, you're having to flick out a pretty heavy, big blade. So action, wish it was snappy. Now ergonomically, I mentioned the hot spots already. It's the pocket clip and this area right in here. Aside from that, feels pretty good. I like the choke up spot. It's nice and roomy. We got a nice kind of 50-50 sort of finger, halfway on the blade, halfway on the scale here. Choke up spot feels nice. Your thumb kind of can get in this little ramp area or even further up on the spine. Feels good. Choked back, besides the hot spots, it feels nice. You know, it's kind of relatively thick. It fills out your hand nicely. You know, this particular jimping on the scales right here, it's not sticking up past the surface of the G10, so it almost doesn't really do much at all. It's just, I feel like it's kind of for looks. This is very kind of not grippy right here. This stuff, though, feels pretty nice and grippy. This jimping up on the spine. I'm not sure how much good this does. I think I like how it looks, though. So there's that. Um, One thing I just noticed, since there is no liner back here, it looks like they have a plate on the inside as well for the pocket clip screws, which is a good idea. So you can see there's a plate, kind of like a backing plate for those. I mean, what else would they thread into? So I guess that's why they're there. It's for them to thread into. So that's what that is. Yeah, that makes sense. They couldn't just thread into the G10. So yeah, that's why they're there. Both sides, lefty side, right-handed side. Cool. Um, Overall, I don't know, man. I honestly wish it was a little bit smaller. You know, um, I'm not like a massive knife kind of guy. I like a few big knives. I like the Shaman very much. To me, this is a perfect size knife. But I like small knives too. You know, I like a wide range of knives. I'm just not like a huge knife guy. Like I don't think I would buy a Yo Jumbo or something like that. Um, I just like my knives. I mean, kind of around Shaman size or smaller. I wish this was just a little bit smaller, and I wish that it had a better detent feel to it. I wish it had a snappy flicking action. Um, Aside from that, this is a pretty badass knife. I mean, it certainly looks badass, doesn't it? I really love the overall look of it. It feels very Microtech, and you know, I think Microtech's aesthetic is really, really good. It doesn't always translate to, you know, good ergonomics, but I mean, you can't deny that Microtech just has kind of a badass aesthetic. Um, Pretty tactical, you know, but that's kind of the thing. I'm not I'm not usually a super tactical kind of guy, but I do like a little bit of it when it's done right, and I feel like this is done right. Um, I like how this looks back here. This kind of reminds me of like a piston or something in here. How the spring kind of comes into this little like hinged area where it's secured by these this hardware right here. I think that looks cool. It's almost like a yeah, like a piston almost. I think that looks cool. I love this huge fat stop pin. Look at that thing. That is massive, dude. That is cool. Huge beefy stop pin. Love that T20 pivot screw. That is sweet. So, you know, there's a lot of things I like about it. I'm not sure that I would buy one, though. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't. In fact, I'm positive that I wouldn't. It's just, you know, it's expensive. I forget exactly how much it is, but it's expensive. And I just don't like it enough to buy it. I just don't like it enough to buy it. That's kind of the bottom line right there. But you know, if you are okay with the things that I mentioned, you know, a couple hot spots, not a good flicker, um, and you love the aesthetic, then you might love this knife. This might be your favorite knife. You know, just kind of personal preference. Aside from the things I mentioned. So, there it is, the Microtech MSI. I really want to try the Stitch. And I know the Stitch is a very big knife as well. But I'm very curious to try that one. If anyone would be willing to send me one, I would be super grateful. I don't need to cut anything with it. If you don't want me to, just you know, specify. Um, I would love to check one out. And while we're talking about it, um, if anyone wants to send me a knife to do cut testing or not do cut testing or just to review, whatever, hit me up. And if it's something I'm interested in, I would love to have it on the channel. Um, I've been kind of having to cut back on my knife purchasing a little bit recently, and I'm kind of running out of things to do cut tests with. So if you guys want to send in anything to for me to check out, that'd be awesome. Thanks for watching, dudes. Let me know what you think. Are you guys gonna buy one of these? Are you dissuaded from it now? Yeah, let me know what you think. One more thing, the sharpening choil. slash choke up spot is done pretty well. I don't know why the edge bevel has thickened up right there. See how it got a little bit thick? Because it doesn't feel, I mean, the plunge grind is way back here. So I don't know why that did that. It could have just been whoever sharpened kind of just did a little oopsie. I think that must be it because, it doesn't get thick till way back here. So that's got to be just whoever sharpened it. So that's great. Sharpening trail, very nice. Yeah. Cool. Please like the video before you guys get out of here. I'd appreciate it. And thanks for watching. Thanks Florida Boy EDC for lending me the knife. Please go make sure you subscribe to him. He's making some good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Adios, dudes.